Noah,
What's up?
we finally got you on the podcast, man.
Finally.
It's been a fucking while.
Yeah. Well, now it's safer to be down here.
That's true. When did we start actually talking to each other? Was this, I want to say, mid-February or early March or something like that?
I'd say around that time. It's been a couple months.
It's been just nonstop, though, dude.
Mhm.
It's been the Corona stuff and then the protests and rioting, and now it's like, just, I don't even know anymore. I'm waiting for the meteor, like I told you on the phone, dude. You know what I mean?
I mean, at this point, I'll embrace it.
Just like, come to me.
Yeah. So I'm like that with movies where, like with Armageddon, where towards the end, I'm like, I don't care. Just kill him. Like, I don't care.
What?
I'm so tired. It was so tired. Everything went wrong.
Except for Liv Taylor. There's nothing wrong about that.
No. But even like, have you seen Gravity?
No, the Sandra Bullock?
Yeah, Sandra Bullock.
I intentionally avoided that.
Yeah, I would say you're not missing anything. But
I figured.
She's in space with George Clooney, and very early on in the movie, he just like lets go and goes into space. That would have been me. I'd be like, you know what? Spaceship's blowing up. I'm outside of it. I'm just gonna peace out.
What do you think he was, Jack from Titanic or something?
Pretty much. I mean, he just decided to just give it up. But it's just when everything bad happens, I'm over it. Like I just get tired.
I'm
just tired. So if the asteroid's coming, like if I'm in a plane and it's gonna crash, I'm going to be the least freaked out.
What would be your ideal like apocalyptic scenario?
Man, I don't know. I mean, probably just like a big earthquake, like in San Andreas or 2012, because we'd be the first ones done, like out. You know, like when people are like, aren't you worried about the big one? I'll be dead before any of you in the Midwest. Like you're waiting for the ripples and stuff are coming to you. I'll be the first one out.
I don't want to talk about it, dude. It's killing my energy, man.
Why not?
Hey, do me a favor, dude. Explain who you are. Tell us a little about you. Like, what's your background? Where'd you come from? Like, why are you in LA? Are you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Noah Kinsey, actor, writer, producer, podcast host, improver, all that good stuff. Moved out here 2010 from Michigan / Indiana, that whole area, and been out here doing my thing ever since.
What was your motivation to like move to LA? I mean, obviously it's gonna be film related, right?
Yeah, you have to be out here for the industry.
Yeah.
But also I have family who was in Whittier. So when I'd come out to visit, I'm from a small farm town in Michigan, where for some reason there's a ton of Confederate flags, even though I must have missed that day in history class in Michigan. It was part of the southern states. But anyway, the big city that I always wanted to be that small fish in a big pond. You know, I didn't like the small where everything closes at 6 p.m. That works for a lot of people, but for me, I just can't. I need the big city.
Was there like an acclimation process for you? Did you feel like you just fit right in?
I think I fit in pretty easily. So for me, I've traveled a lot with family, a lot. So for me, I've always had to feel comfortable in new situations. So for me, it was a pretty easy transition.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, were you guys just doing road trips and stuff, or was it for business or something?
For my dad's work. He worked for a church denomination. So every a denomination of a church, of like Church of the Brethren was the denomination. He worked for the national board for that. So we travel every summer. There'd be an annual conference in a different city of the U.S. every year. So we'd go there. You know, and that was a lot of the travel. My sisters were a lot older than me, so by the time I was kind of, you know, like a kid that remembers things, they were already in college doing their own thing, so it was usually me having to make friends everywhere I went.
I mean, that's pretty cool, man, because like, I feel like that gives you a perspective that most people on this planet don't really have, you know, like, because I think people fail to realize how big the United States is.
Yeah.
You know, like for you to travel from one side of the US to the other side is basically like the equivalent of somebody in Europe going a couple times across the continent.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so you've had a different perspective than I think most other people have been able to, you know, enjoy. What do you think that's done for your done for your viewpoint on things, you know what I mean? Because people from, let's say, LA, like I was born and raised here, right? And I feel like that definitely forces me to, you know, think and act a certain way.
Sure.
Like even just the way I speak, you know, like you can't take the Valley girl out of you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But somebody like you who's gotten to experience all this, like, do you think that that's given you a different perspective, whether this way or that way, whatever?
Yeah, I think 100%. And I think if money wasn't an issue, I think more people should travel and live. Like, I've lived in 3 different countries. I've lived in Greece and Australia.
Oh, shit, dude.
As well as here. I've traveled a lot, traveled to different countries, different states, things like that. But it absolutely... So, probably in a self-depreciating way, it basically makes me realize that there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways of living and a lot of life experiences that I will never have that I don't understand. And that has really made me, I think, a better listener in general, because I'm not coming at a viewpoint like if you've been in one place. And especially if it's a small town that's uber white. If your way of living works for you, I think and everyone around you, that way of living works for you. I think there's a tendency to feel comfortable in that cocoon, but also just not understand that other people don't have the same experiences as you, and luckily I've whittled away a lot of people from my hometown on Facebook and things like that. So I'm not seeing a lot of stuff that I used to, but there was a lot of ignorance.
Is that lucky or tragic though, man? You know what I mean? Because I feel like you would want to help everybody sort of find a balance in their lives. Like,
sure, but they have to want it too.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's the big thing. So I do have a lot of friends that are on different sides of the aisle, things like that. I'm more moderate. I have views on both sides a little bit, or more independent, I guess I should say. But so I do have a lot of friends that have different viewpoints and things like that. But I've whittled away the ones that just are super closed-minded about it, that are just blatantly racist and okay with it, or super authoritarian about their religion, and I don't want to argue with people online. I would rather have an actual discussion, and there's a huge difference.
There's nuance lost.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've lost that, knowing the difference when it's okay to agree to disagree, but also when to disagree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of pushback with saying, I have no idea why, but all of a sudden we have more neo-Nazis out than ever before. They've been there. It's freaking Hydra up in here. But like the fact of they can say all this stuff, and then when you're like angry that they're saying this hurtful stuff, then you hear like, so much for the tolerant left. It's like, no, at that point, that's not a difference of opinion. That's a difference of morals. And there's a fundamental difference between that.
So on that note, do you think that, like, I'm curious about what your plan is for the podcast. What do you think are you going to focus on something? Are you trying to cover everything? Like, what's your vision for that?
Yeah, I want to have a healthy conversation. And the podcast you're talking about that I'm partnering up with you guys is the CoffeeTime podcast with Noah Kinsey.
With Noah Kinsey.
So that I want to have healthy discussions and healthy debates. I mean, the shows are going to run the gamut. So I have already some of them that we'll be releasing early on. There's some nerd conversations. We have lively discussions about Star Wars and Marvel and things like that. But then we'll also have those political conversations.
Gotcha.
But it's coming at a place of respect, coming at a place of like listening, active listening, and kind of seeing where we fall. I have some guests on there that. So there was one.
Oh no, we're not going to get banned from YouTube.
No.
Not yet. For a channel purge because of Noah Kinsey.
No. So there was one person who initially agreed to be on the show that I thought would be interesting. It's this Pastor Greg guy. Mm-hmm. I think his last name's Locke. He's on Twitter. He has a blue check mark. But I have since rescinded the invitation because he is super hateful, toxic on Twitter. And I want, if I have someone with a different opinion, wonderful. I want to have those conversations. But if I have the very strong indication that they're going to come on here and just yell and be super nasty and toxic and use it as fuel for their little cult, I don't want to have those conversations, because what's the point? I already know what you're about. You don't care what I'm about. That's not the thesis for the podcast. If you have difference of opinions, but you're open to a discussion, or even just walking away being like, I hear his points and I acknowledge he has those, but that's not for me.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But if you're coming on here to just spout
rave and
awful shit, like, hard pass. That's not what I'm interested in.
Do you feel like you're consistent in your let me rephrase this. Do you feel like that applies to people on both sides of the aisle?
Yeah.
So you don't okay. It's not just like, oh, you're from that side and that's it. Like, you're going to apply that banhammer equally.
100%. Okay. 100%. No, I have beef with people on the far side of both, on either side of the spectrum.
Like you said, you're a moderate, man.
Yeah, I have issues. And the funny thing is I have far left liberals have me blocked on Twitter than far right. Because I think the people who are on the right are shocked when they're like, oh my, I agree with this guy. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. Meanwhile, when people on the far left see stuff that they're not super thrilled with me saying, they think I'm like this toxic traitor or something.
It's gotten weird, man. And like, I just want to preface this with, I have a lot of respect for what you're trying to do.
Oh, thank you.
Because I would love to talk about politics, man. Mm-hmm. Like, I would love to do that. But there's this hesitation in me.
Sure.
I don't want to. Like, I don't want to have the lines blurred between, what I'm doing for my business and then have that as like this other thing. Yeah. So I figure, it's not even appropriate for me to do that. You know what I mean? And it sucks because I really want to, man. So I'm going to be watching this with great interest. Just preface. I wanted to preface that.
Yeah. And so I think it's a line. It's a fine line. I mean, it's a tightrope walk. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think the best of us, and I really hope that I can make this look easy because the best ones make it look easy, but it isn't. And I think there's a fine line between having a healthy, respectful conversation when you're letting someone know, like, you're in a safe place to have a conversation. But then there's the danger of enabling certain things. And there's some podcast hosts that I think do way more enabling of toxicity than having that healthy conversation.
I think I know who you're referring to.
Probably.
Are you willing to name drop or no?
I didn't know. I mean, because you were just saying you were uncomfortable, so I don't want to like blow up your spot.
This is your thing, man. Like, that's why I'm keeping my mouth shut.
No,
you feel free to say whatever you want to say.
I'm talking about Joe Rogan.
There you go.
I absolutely am.
So what is it that is bothering you about him? Because I've watched a lot of his stuff. I'm not like, I wouldn't say that I'm like a diehard fan or anything like that.
I've been a fan of his since news radio. So back in the mid. So
you followed him.
Oh yeah, like for 30 years.
Well, what was it that kind of like tipped you over the edge on him?
So
was it the Spotify deal?
No.
Don't be a hater, man. Come on.
But I think it's funny because he's like, it's going to be the same exact show. And it's like, of all people, Joe should know that when someone's throwing you $100 million, they're going to have notes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what happened to Dave Chappelle with Comedy Central. They're like, here's $50 million. We love what you're doing with the show. He's like, wonderful. That's amazing. Cashes the check and they're like, okay, here's what, here's the changes we want to make.
Do you think, though, that he may be at a position in his life where he's got enough, for lack of a better term, he's got enough leverage to avoid that? You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And I to your point, I do think he does. I just feel I will be very interested to see what happens because I'm wondering if it's going to be very reminiscent of when Howard Stern moved to Sirius. Because with that, he's changed over time, but that's him. That wasn't any notes. He was given free reign to do whatever on Sirius, but the problem was his a chunk of his audience he thought was going to come with him didn't.
Yeah.
So
wasn't it Sirius was a paid sub, so he went from the radio, which is just open public,
went to something where you pay $10 a month.
It was the same with, I don't know if you're familiar with them, Opie and Anthony. Yep. They had the same thing happen to them.
And there was a huge lawsuit between Howard and Sirius XM. I don't know if they were merged at that time, but between that and the satellite radio, because they're like, look, we signed you up with an understanding X amount of subscribers would be coming on because that's why we're giving you like Oprah money, basically. And they didn't, but Howard's like, pay me, I mean, what are you going to do? I can't force these people to do this. So I think he ended up winning the whole thing. But I'm wondering because it's going to be where you have to be like Spotify. I don't know if it's Spotify Premium or what it is, but you at least have to exclusively listen to him on Spotify. And it's not really going to hurt his bottom line per se. I just wonder what it's going to do, if it's going to be another like Howard audience numbers drop. I don't know. I'll be very interested to see how it does with because right now he's like one of like top 5 most downloaded, listened to podcasters ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think intuitively it doesn't matter what the business is or what you're doing. Like anytime you make a switch like that, you're probably going to see a drop off in numbers. Like, I mean, I webmastered for some sites back in the day. I'm not going to go into details on that. And there were times where we'd need to switch billers. And it never failed, man. Anytime we had to do something like that, you would see a massive drop off.
Sure.
Massive.
Sure.
Didn't matter how many you managed to convert over, there was at least, I'd say, like 50% drop off. But that was for that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because people were paying subs and whatever.
But at the base of that, at the similarity to that is it's an inconvenience.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And that, I think that's the core problem when even if it wasn't like Howard going from terrestrial radio to satellite, it's an inconvenience because now I can't just turn on my car on the way to work. Now I have to subscribe to it. Might take me 2 minutes, but still, it's like, ugh, I still have to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even though YouTube and Spotify both have their freemium version, let's call them, right?
I like that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're pushing the fucking paid shit so hard.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's just aggravating to me, but I get it. You know?
As a consumer, you're annoyed. As a content provider, you get it.
Yeah, of course. You can't not. If you didn't get that, just don't do business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You are, yeah.
Yeah. So it's annoying, but at the same time, like I get it. And, you know, for me, it's more a question of, because I'm an avid gamer, hardcore, right? And I pretty much just use this one piece of software called Steam. That's the only launcher that I use. And it's not because there aren't any other launchers. It's because I don't want to be asked with fucking downloading Origin and Uplay and Epic Game Store and GOG. Fucking like, dude, fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good with this one. It's got most everything on it. I'm not going to go download your fucking spyware, dude. I'm good. You know?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, you're right, might end up in that same situation where they've been watching him on YouTube for whoever knows how many years, right? And maybe they don't have I don't have Spotify. I don't fucking need it.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that'll cause that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so you didn't answer the question though. What was it that ticked you off?
I feel for the longest time, and there's just like little things where I'm just like, bro, but I love you, but oh, Joe. He claims that he's always voted for Democrats.
Yeah.
And he claims that he's not conservative. Regardless of either of those things, I voted Republican, I voted Democrat. Like, that's not my issue. My issue is I feel like he doesn't take ownership he tends to have these super ultra toxic conservatives on his show, and he's an enabler and normalizer for him. So, for example, like Ben Shapiro.
Oh, okay.
So that's someone, the first time I had ever heard of Ben Shapiro was on Joe's podcast. And he seemed super normal, super nice, super misunderstood. That was the premise of the entire episode, is Ben Shapiro's misunderstood. And he seems super cool, super nice. I'm like, great, another conservative because I listen to a podcast called Left, Right, and Center, which has people on the left, people on the right, and it's a healthy conversation. There needs to be more political podcasts like this. It's amazing. I'm like, great, another conservative voice I can listen to that seems kind of down the line, more honest. And then I go and listen to Ben's own stuff, and I'm like, fuck this guy. He is an awful, like, he's terrible. He's a shitty human being. I'm like, so this whole, oh, poor me. He's also had Alex Jones on there, and to date, even with other guests on there, Joe Rogan says, oh, Alex is just misunderstood. He just gets riled up. He's been right about some stuff like 30 years ago. I'm like, this is the dude that was saying the Sandy Hook parents were crisis actors who, because of Alex Jones, these people they've already lost their kid. They have to move because they're getting death threats because people are listening to a guy that's talking about genetically modified gay frogs from the government. Like, this is somebody that Joe Rogan keeps pushing as he just gets riled up. Like, this is someone that's ruined people's lives and makes profits off of this. He's had Candace Owens on there, who is like, I don't know if you know.
I'm familiar with her.
Yeah. Just lets her spout her crazy the only time, and she was saying a ton of crazy stuff. And the only time he stepped in is when she didn't believe in climate change. And that's like, Joe's an environmentalist. So that's where he's like, whoa. I'm like, this is where you draw the line. Like, she said all this terribly toxic, batshit crazy stuff beforehand, but this is where, like, come on.
How much of this, though, do you think is because, like, I've heard the argument thrown out, and I mean, I'm inclined to give people the benefit of the doubt, right?
Sure.
I'm inclined to think that the reason why he lets these people say the things that they want to say, the reason why he gives them that platform, to borrow that term from the left, is because he's just open to any conversation. So what I'm curious about, though, is that, I mean, you're making it sound like there needs to be a line drawn as a host and guest where it's like, you can't say this, or I need to push back on you. But if your show's not about that, then why would you need to do any of that? Like, if you're just there to let them do their thing, expose themselves for the crazies that they are, why would you as a host need to provide pushback?
But that's not what he does. So if that was his whole thing, if it's like, here you go, say your stuff, whatever. But when he's defending them to other people, when he's calling Milo Yiannopoulos a provocateur, like, he's not a bad guy, he's a provocateur. Well, first off, Joe, I don't think you know the definition of that word. This is a guy who said on your show that it's good that priests are molesting altar boys, because if he wasn't molested by his priest, he wouldn't have known his sexuality. Like, on your show, and then years later, you're still saying, oh, Milo's just a provocateur. So what he's doing on his show, I think he thinks he's doing what you're saying, which by itself, I have mixed feelings about that. Sure. I'll just say that. Like, I haven't landed on something.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say yes or no to that, because it's like, that's kind of a internal struggle that I currently have. But when he's defending these people, or when they're saying stuff that on his show that's factually completely inaccurate, and Joe's whole premise is he cuts through bullshit. If your premise is he just says it how it is, then when people say how things aren't factually, you need to push back. Or else what you're doing is you're telling your audience who listen to you because you cut through the shit, you're telling them like, oh, there might be some truth to that. I feel like if your whole premise is I cut through the shit and I don't have bullshit and we just talk, I don't care what side of the aisle you are, we're just talking and we're just being honest, you have to stick to that premise. You can't immediately refuse to be held accountable by saying, hey man, they said it, I didn't. So if your whole thing is like, I don't care who you are, we're going to have an active conversation, you need to stick with your brand and kind of hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire. Does that make sense?
You're saying. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying.
Because like when Alex Jones says all his crazy stuff, and then Joe has someone on there who talks shit about Alex Jones, for then Joe to say, well, he's been right about some stuff.
That's his friend. That might be a little tough example.
True, but once again, by him saying that, now you have his audience, and the majority of there's a lot of people who are very you can kind of steer them in certain directions.
Malleable.
Sure. That's not the word I was going to use, but I can't think of what it was.
Open to outside influence.
Impressionable. That's what I was going
You're
for.
You're so politically correct, dude.
when you have a large audience that's impressionable, and someone saying, hey, here's Pizzagate that Alex Jones was talking about, Pizzagate, and Joe being like, well, the thing with Alex is he's been right about other stuff. The audience is going to be like, oh, so maybe Alex, some of his stuff might be, I'm going to give him more credibility than I should. Because the stuff Alex Jones was right about was 30 years ago.
So to boil this down, right, your premise here is that you don't like that he is basically sort of editorializing on behalf of these people. Like, if he were to just be like, this is it, bye, and then fucking zip his mouth and not say anything.
If he was like,
that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Candace Owens.
And
then she can say her shit to let everyone else decide.
Yeah.
But his whole show, when you listen to it, it's not, his show isn't even called Devil's Advocate. It's not usually Devil's Advocate. It's Joe's opinion and Joe's perspective on stuff. And because he will argue with some people. Like when he had the Game Changers guy on there, the vegan documentary, like he'll push back. When he's pushing back at stuff that he's kind of against, but then he's providing a a velvet pillow platform for all these other people and basically giving them credibility, it's problematic. So if his platform was just say your piece, I'm not going to argue with you either way, do your thing, that would be different than what he does, which is I'm going to normalize all of this crazy of these people who profit off of the fracture of our country. That's where recently there's just been too much stuff where it's just I can't do it anymore. I can't listen to his stuff. I feel like, and he's very influential. Like people who go, Bernie Sanders was on his show, Tulsi Gabbard, like they're on that because his voice is trusted. When you become a trusted news source and a trusted source of social commentary, you have an obligation. You can't have that, but then also be like, well, but I'm just letting them talk.
See, I'm going to push back here. Sure. I completely disagree.
Okay.
Every single mainstream news media outlet that we have in the United States at the moment engages in exactly what you just described.
And I have a problem with that. But
I'm glad we agree on that front.
No, totally. Yeah,
they're all full of shit.
100%. I think one of the worst things that's happened to our country is 24-hour news channels.
It's cancerous, dude.
It is because basically, because ratings are important.
Money, of course.
And to keep you in tune, to keep you on their channel, they have to freak you the frick out for you to keep watching their channel. So they're not going to talk about just news in general because snooze.
Yeah.
But if they're telling you what to be upset about, if they're telling you I didn't know what ecstasy was until there was a Dateline on ecstasy. And I was a teenager at the time, and they're like, this is a teenage epidemic. And I'm like, thanks for telling me where I can get some Dateline.
Dude, you should have been friends with me growing up. Yeah, but no, I get what you're saying, man.
But so I 100% agree, but I'm not going to let him off the hook just because other people are doing shitty stuff.
No, it's not about whataboutism at all. Because that's exactly what that would be. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people tend to give them a pass because they claim that they're media. They claim that they're journalists. And it's like, well, dude,
that's
you went
not
to
what my show's going to be about either because I have major problems with that. Because they're all guilty of that.
Cool. All right. So you're definitely going to be holding people's feet to the fucking fire.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
That's fucking great, man.
In a respectful way. Once again, but I'm also not going to have the people on that are just, like I said, just there to start shit.
Yeah,
because I have no conversation. I posted a tweet the other day obviously on Twitter. I posted a tweet and someone pushed back against it, and I went on their page and it's all this toxic shit where I'm like, and I even said, I'm like, you don't want to have a conversation. You just want to argue with me. I'm not interested because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing straw man arguments. I'm not doing any of that shit, man. We're going to talk about what we're talking about. And if someone wants to go down a rabbit hole that has nothing to do with it just to notch a win, we're not doing that. And I will call you out on that.
Good faith at that point, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because both sides do that all the time.
It's tragic, dude. I don't know what's happened in the past few years, but there used to be a time where people compromised, I feel. And this is completely outside the realm of politics, too. I don't even want to talk about politics, right? I'm just saying in general, people would compromise. Yeah. Hey, do you want to meet at 2 or, can we do 3? And now it's no, fuck you, meet at 2 or go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
When did we become how is that an acceptable way to live? You know what I mean? We can't continue that path, Because I think that the politics stuff is just something easy for people to latch onto and vent their rage and frustration through. You know what I mean? But I feel like these are issues that are more closer to home. I think, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what's caused it, right? But I feel like it's just this general, nihilism, this lack of empathy for other people, this lack of fucking just giving a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get my nut. Fuck you if you don't want to, roll with that.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from, but I've noticed that too.
It's bizarre, dude.
And it's just, it's just so strange. I mean, you look at a society and how things have changed over just a few decades. And it's just crazy how things have changed. And even, you hear it when it comes to any social cause or anything. If someone cares about a certain topic that, for example, sexual harassment. and when like women being sexually harassed or sexually assaulted, you have like men saying, well, I have a daughter, so this is really important to me. Why do you have to have a daughter? Like what? Why do you have to know somebody in that certain situation for you to give a shit about someone else's feelings in general? Why do you have to know
you need
someone?
A qualifier.
Yeah, like I don't get why you have to know someone related or be that to care.
Can I throw out an idea?
Sure.
And I don't know how close to home this is.
No, because I don't know where. So I think, yeah, I am open.
You know, people say, those people, they say that the internet brought us closer together. It brought information to our fingertips. But I think that might be sort of like a inaccurate statement.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that if anything, it may have pushed people apart.
Sure.
You know, because it lets you immediately just disconnect. You don't have the option in real life of saying, well, you do, but, you know, within reason, right? Whereas on the internet, you're just like, okay, fuck you, block.
Yeah.
And I feel like that has given rise to this mentality of like, well, if you don't agree with me, I'll just find people that do agree with me.
Yeah.
You know? And it's turned into this bizarre thing like what you said, where you just qualify stuff because you can. You know, like I don't know. That's what I think may have happened.
I think there's that
like the prominence of social media or something.
If that's not the whole thing, it's contributed.
Yeah,
because I do think the internet and social media is a double-edged sword. It's been able, on the plus side, and we're seeing this right now, it's allowed people to see perspectives and worlds and experiences that they wouldn't have seen in their small little bubble.
Yeah,
but it also has had people. It's fractured people, you know, and you have, for one, if it's your social media and you're posting your thoughts and whatever, all of a sudden everything's about you. It's this I generation, lowercase I.
There you go, dude. It's the narcissism. Yeah, it kicks in, man.
And then even, I mean, I've been married before. I was married when Facebook was still kind of like for colleges.
Okay.
Before it became like, why is my mom on here?
Is that
type
in the
of thing.
50s or something?
It feels like it at this point. But then when I got divorced, like now there's dating apps and all this stuff or whatever. I mean, even so when I was dating my ex-wife, if you didn't text back, and this was like early cell phones where it was like unlimited plans. I'm old, people. If you didn't text
I was trying to hold it in, man.
No, I am old. But if you didn't text your girlfriend back like BRB or I'll talk to you tomorrow, whatever, you were screwed. You were coming back to your phone hours later the next day with a pissed off. You may have blown it, you know. Whereas then when I was back in the single world, if you texted a woman back right away, she'd be like,
creepy,
whoa, slow down. We haven't even gone on a date yet, type of thing.
It's like you said, you love her.
Yes, exactly.
You're that into me? That's gross.
Yeah, I mean, when I got back into the dating world, the only way, people think I'm joking, but I'm serious. The only way I stayed sane with the new texting culture is the moment I sent a text, I just imagined that once she had sent me her most recent text, she died. So that way, in 2 days later, when I hear from her, I'm relieved and happy, as opposed to being like, where have you been for 2 days? And why did it take you that long to say, I'm good, how are you? You know, like, because the texting culture, we have our phones with us all the time. But yet people act like, so sorry, I'm just seeing this. Dude, you take it into poop. You're not just seeing my text message. I have forgotten to text back, but that's not common. Where I have some friends who I don't hear from for like 5 days.
Yeah.
Which I'm just not going to send them something in a text that needs an immediate response. So it is what it is. But let's not pretend that we're just seeing things.
Yeah.
It's like when you are late for something in LA, you're like, sorry, there was traffic. We've all accepted that excuse, but we also know it's a bullshit excuse because there's always traffic in LA. You know, we're like, I get it. I use that excuse sometimes too. I'll let it slide.
It's an acceptable white lie at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
See, the bizarre thing to me, though, is that, you know, it's almost like you don't, again, we come back to the benefit of the doubt thing. Like at that point, you're no longer giving the person the benefit of the doubt. What if they legitimately didn't see the fucking text?
Oh, no.
What if they had lost their fucking phone?
Sure.
You know,
and that's happened.
But we don't assume that anymore. We just jump straight to, oh, you didn't see it. Or you did see it, but you ignored it. You know what I mean?
It's become an acceptable excuse because you're somebody who does
so
that
often.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think also with social media, I mean, that's also, I think it's hurt relationships. Where, I mean, you're seeing somebody and they have the FOMO, you know, where they're just like, what if the perfect person is there out for me? I need to keep my options open, but yet you're ignoring somebody who might be perfect for you currently, and then you have, I've had friends before where it's like, hey, do you want to hang out Saturday? And they'll say, I'm not really sure what I'm doing that day, but I'll let you know. And it's like, okay, never mind then.
You've got to schedule your,
because I'm not going to be if you're not going to if you don't find something more fun in the meantime, I'm not going to be your backup plan. Like, I'm cool doing my own thing, man. But I do feel like social media has contributed for sure to that. And the whole, like, my voice is more important than your voice, and what I want to do is more important to you because I have this platform where everyone's going on Facebook to see what I have to say.
Yeah.
So I do think that probably contributes to
Do you think there's a fix? Like, do you see, like, okay, where do you see us going?
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go that far. Just let's say, like, immediate future. Like, what do you think is going to happen, and pick whatever you want topic wise. Like,
I feel like we're going to have a new normal. I think it's going to redefine what we have considered community. Because now we don't need to be in geographically the same place to be with our people. I think we as humans are very tribal. Or pack animals.
Yeah.
And I feel now, I feel like it's right now we're going through growing pains where this is new. The internet's new. Social media is new. I mean, it's been around for 10, 15 years by this point.
Facebook was probably.
Yeah. Like MySpace.
Oh,
was kind
sorry.
of,
That's right. MySpace. My bad.
Yeah, but that was like blink and you missed it. You know, R.I.P. Tom. But like, he
was my first friend.
Right? Yeah, just his smiling face looking at you as if it's like a candid picture of him. Like he didn't know they're going to take his picture. But I feel like it's so new and technology advances so fast that sometimes as a society we have a hard time keeping up, so we can't adjust with it as it's happening. But I do feel optimistic that we're going to come to a place where, we're identifying the pitfalls and traps and the flaws and things like that. And those of us who want better and want more fulfilling friendships and relationships and just a life, I feel like we'll get there. I mean, already with companies, because of the virus, we've had to telecommute, and now we're seeing that actually can work when it has to, as opposed to before it was kind of like pulling teeth. But now businesses are finding ways to do that functionally when they didn't before. I mean, it sucks that something that's killing a bunch of people globally forced us to do that. But now we're seeing that, and we're coming out of it, and we're seeing that now with some protests and things like that, this sense of community that before we acted like we were too busy to even address. Whereas now it's like, no, you're not. Like, unemployment's the highest it's been since the Great Depression. You have the time to learn how other people have experienced life.
On that note, I'm curious, man. Do you think it's like a big city syndrome in a way? Like, I've talked about this before.
What do you mean?
So the sort of like the general disconnect that we seem to have with even people that we meet, let's say in LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, versus if you were still over in that small town in Michigan, like, do you think that it would have been different? Do you think that the
current protests, or what do you mean?
No. Your interpersonal relationships with people and the relationships that people have with their local communities, do you think that they're generally more tight knit in smaller, smaller cities, let's say, versus like big cities? Like, do you think this is a problem that's mainly focused into urban areas like Los Angeles, or do you think it's a problem that applies to your small town in Michigan as well?
You are a very good host. That's a fantastic question.
Thank you.
I actually think it's more healthy and functional in big cities than it is small cities. I actually think when it comes to small cities, in order to keep the peace, because there's only X amount of people in that city, so to function, you kind of have to bite your tongue a lot. I think there's a lot of, this person's in a position of authority and they have a small bubble of people around them, but they control freaking everything. I better, even if I don't agree with them, I better just kind of keep up with how that is, because there's not really, I'm kind of stuck here.
So a lot of status quo goes on pretty much.
I really think that that's the case. A lot of keeping up with the Joneses, a lot of like, I don't agree with this shit, but I have to be around these people, whereas now, whether it's through social media or like bigger cities, now it's like you kind of can find your own pods or find ways to coexist, because even with different groups, whether it's ethnicities, belief systems, whatever, in a big city, you're still forced to work with them to make things work overall. So I feel like, one of the reasons small towns are kind of dying out is because the elders, for lack of a better term, they've kind of been controlling things and making their ecosystem not really reflective of how the world is anymore or how it can be. So some things just aren't sustainable.
Right.
You see it in areas where it's like all of our jobs are now obsolete. So politician, you better get our jobs back.
Right.
It's like,
right.
They're not there anymore, and so I do think it's healthier in a big city. And at least with social media, you can see what you wouldn't be able to before.
Do you think it's healthy overall for us to be shifting away from that smaller community sort of group thing that used to be more prominent in the past and moving more towards, congregating in large cities? Like, have you seen Judge Dredd?
Yeah, which one? I've seen both, but yeah, which one?
Either or.
Okay.
So, like, because this is going to sound really dramatic, right? And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but let's take this to its logical conclusion. Say we manage to survive for the next couple hundred years, are we eventually going to live in these ginormous freaking 1,000-story tall tenement complexes and, just that small city, small village, small town thing is just going to be completely out the window? And is that a healthier way to live? I'm trying to extrapolate here. We're going philosophical.
I love this shit. Like, I love it. No. I think how it's going to change, I still think there's still going to be the very urban, very rural, different things. I think what's going to change is we're going to see the bigger picture. It's easier to see how we all fit into this system. And once again, the virus is a nightmarish thing. It's terrible and everything, but it's showing us just how interconnected we all are. We function not just nationally, but also globally in different ways. So because we can't not be global, we can't not be, we're international. Your farmer in Utah, he has a connection to the businesswoman in China.
Right.
It might be like 12 degrees of Kevin Bacon to get to her, but like
it's there somewhere.
We're all interconnected. Yeah. And I think this gives us a greater respect on how that is, how we all, the butterfly effect, for lack of a better term, how that is a real thing. But there's still roles for, we need farmers. We need, all that stuff. We need agriculture. We need everything that's there, but it all serves a purpose to community, small c, big C. I don't think we're all just going to go into a city per se. We're not going to have one tall building where Keith Urban is, like shooting up the place. Nothing like that.
That'd be cool.
That would.
For like the duration of a short movie, but anything past that I might have
for like
problems
90 minutes tops. That's cool.
Especially if Cersei Lannister was my landlord, I'd be all for that shit, man.
Absolutely. But I do think we're going to be able to see just how a bigger role we all play into it, no matter what we do.
So this is going to sound blunt, but I have no better way of putting this. Do you think it's more of a thing where we're better recognizing sort of our own place in society? And that might be a little bit of why people are, for lack of a better term, acting out? Like, how do I put this? Let's take me, for example. I guess the best way to do this would be like this, right? Like, I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. It took me 31 years to learn that. But thankfully, I've got it kind of somewhat nailed down. I'm sure it'll keep changing.
Sure.
But I know what I can do and what I can't do. I know what I can, learn given enough time and practice, and what is just completely out of the scope of my abilities, right?
Sure.
Do you think that, to jump off what you said, is that kind of what you meant, where people may be recognizing that a little bit more, and that's causing some anger for others, hope for others? Maybe that's part of where we're seeing these, varying emotions come from, is just a better understanding of like, dude, you're one little tiny cog in this ginormous machine. And I mean, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I think I want to clarify so my answer is yes, but I think what it's going to show people, and what people are now learning, is they have a bigger impact than they think. Their impact might be not what they think it is, but they do have an impact.
Right.
So, and just how interconnected and things like that. So it's not like your place is as a farmer, you stick to a farmer, blah, 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 like all that stuff. It's more like you farm, that's what you do on the day-to-day basis, but it like nourishes all these people. It's because of what you do. Like these, like the whole freaking argument with Trump and China over import-export of agriculture. Who would think that would be like this dick measuring contest between two of the biggest powers in the world?
Yeah.
But how many people does that affect globally?
Oh, it's global, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like this farmer in Michigan who gets this like billions, well, not the one farmer, but farmers get like billions in subsidies from the government. And people are just like, oh, conservatives don't like handouts, but look at all these farmers getting subsidies. Yeah, there's a hypocritical argument there. However, these farms in the red states absolutely benefit everybody. So like if they all go tits up, that affects everybody. You know what I mean?
Before anybody gets any wrong ideas, it's the same for California.
Yeah.
We subsidize our farmers here too.
Sure.
And you can't not do it.
You
like we had the huge water nonsense that was going on, but it's unfortunate that this is the world we live in, but what are you going to do? Starve?
Yeah, the drought in California 2 years ago directly affected crops, which then affected in different states and different countries and things like that. So I feel like this is going to say like your strengths, your weaknesses, things like that. Like this is what they are. This is what you do. But also I feel like it's also going to be able to. This gives people an eagle eye view, like, and this is why it's important.
Right.
So I think this, you're a member of a global society type of thing. I don't think that shouldn't give people the message of how small they are. It should be like, this is how your one thing that you do affects so many people and can have like this domino effect that affects other people as well. And I think that's also why there's this call to action of fundamental change in local, state, federal government. Is just like these isolated incidents directly affect places, the people that you don't even know.
Yeah.
So we need to make these fundamental changes because it will affect you. I know there's a lot of like the whole, the argument against all lives matter, where it's just like, well, if your house is on fire, it's like, well, what about like, why send the fire trucks to your house when all houses matter type of thing? But I feel like for me, the analogy is wrong because I feel like it's an apartment building.
Right.
It's not a house, because if one apartment unit's on fire, that's going to affect everybody. So hell yeah, let's put out the fire in that one apartment because we're all connected, as opposed to a house where it's like, who cares if that house burns, might not burn my house, where it's like, no, it's an apartment unit and we need to take care of where that fire is because it's all connected.
Yeah, I think that's fair, dude. Because I mean, you just said it, dude. People are now realizing how delicate our global supply chains actually were.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something I've talked about this before, not on the podcast, but just with my friend groups and stuff. Like, we take so much for fucking granted.
Sure.
Dude. Like something simple as, I say it's simple, but your sewage system. When do you ever fucking think about how does my shit go down into this toilet through the pipes? Like the thought never crosses your fucking mind.
Yeah.
What are you gonna fucking do if that gets shut down?
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
It's And it's exactly that, dude. I think people might actually be maybe paying attention to this a little bit more, and it's scary. It is scary because you're realizing that for a lot of this, you're kind of powerless. Like if the pipes give out, there's no shit you could do about it. But you cannot shove a bunch of fucking paper towels down the toilet. So it's strange, man. It's very strange times we're living in, dude.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the pushback now is because due to the positives of social media, we can't just hide in our bubble.
Yeah.
We're forced to see that stuff outside of us is different. And we're forced to see that our way of life isn't the only one that's functional for other people. And I think there's a lot of people, change sucks. I mean, I'm somebody, I've had to roll with the punches. I've had to adapt for 10 lifetimes. I hate it. I never get used to it. I'm not a fan of that, but you have to do it, and I just think that there's some pushbacks with a lot of people who didn't have to adapt, who kind of like your way of thinking about certain things is based on a fallacy.
Well, what's the alternative, dude? Because if everything was static, right? If we lived in just the static universe and nothing fucking changed, there was no chaos, everything was peace and, no problems, right? Like, there'd be no growth. There'd be no incentive to learn. It would be static.
Yeah.
And well, what does that inform us of? Like,
how does that benefit us?
We'll never leave this fucking rock if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like you have to take the good with the bad with these things, I think, man. Like, as chaotic as everything is and as divisive as it's become, I want to have the same level of hope that you do, in that it'll get better. You know what I mean? Like we'll all kind of come to the center of the table and be like, all right, what can we do together to get through this shit and not fucking kill each other before, we can try to catch up with Elon's car.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's just when it comes to the most vocal on the toxic side. And so it's like the Spartan mentality, where it's just because they're the loudest doesn't mean they're the most.
Right.
I think there are and we're seeing it a lot, I feel, which is a beautiful thing. There are way more people who are open-minded, down the line, kind of like open to hear both sides type of thing. There's way more of them than there are of the super screamy on either side of the my way or the highway type of thing. But those just tend to be the loudest.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my hope comes from. I'm not an optimistic person. I'm a realistic person with, tends to skew a little bit on the pessimistic, but I'm also I like to think I'm observant.
You painted a nice picture though, man. Don't go spoiling it.
No. I like to think I'm observant, where I think it's just, I think it's, like I said, I think it's just growing pains.
Yeah.
So,
and I can see that.
And this is going to be, I'm going to nerd out on you a little bit when it comes to, so.
I hope I can follow.
Well, this isn't like nerd culture stuff, but this is something where probably, I'm sorry if some of your people dump out here. So Yellowstone, a while back, the national park reintroduced wolves into the ecosystem. Did you hear about this?
No.
So, with hunting and things like that, they basically killed off all the wolves in Yellowstone. So it did not have wolves like it used to. They know that it used to. So what they did is they actually, the people of the park brought wolves back to the environment and reintroduced them into Yellowstone. And what happened with that was the game that they had their little watering spot where they drank water and everything. Now they would have to find other places along the river to drink from. So those areas where they were frequently all the time, now that soil and the mud and things got harder because it gave that time to heal up, because, like you'd have the deer or whatever just constantly trampling on it, never giving it time to like solidify. So that mud and all that stuff got harder, which meant the river was running was stronger, because now, it actually gave it some time. So how nature works is that now the water is running stronger, which brought in beavers to then put in dams. Well, so now other game and other wildlife now started coming into areas because now the rivers and things like that were a lot stronger and it was more fertile for them to eat and all that stuff, which brought in other animals. So rejuvenated Yellowstone just with this one minor tweak. It allowed things to course correct and right itself, and brought in other animals that there just wasn't anything for them there, so they had abandoned the area. And to me, when I see stuff going on like this year, it's so much change and so much reflection and things like that, we're finding ways to now live in this world that we have to come to grips with. And I feel like it's just nature for us to kind of find what that is and address, kind of go to areas where maybe we had neglected, or go to concepts like, because of Black Lives Matter, this is not a new protest.
No, it's not.
But now we're at a place where, because of tragic global circumstances, we're forced to listen. And we now have the time to do the things that we claim we didn't have time. We would love to help out, but we have no time for it. We love to do something. We have no time for it. Well, now we have the time, and I think of Yellowstone when I think of just major changes to our environment, whether social, political, whatever, and just what we do to course correct. And that happens every so many decades. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I could see that, because when was the last thing I think the last major sort of hubbub that we had was during the Vietnam era.
Sure.
Right.
And with the civil rights in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. So it may have been, like you said, we may have been reaching that boiling point where this was bound to happen, whether it was via BLM or whether it was via some other avenue. Like, it was just bound to get to a point where we needed to rethink and relook at where things currently sit.
Like a hard reboot.
Yeah. Because I can actually see that. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
It had been a while. I mean, hopefully.
And we're seeing those changes. The Confederate flags are coming down from getting banned from a bunch of places. Statues are finally coming down.
My only hope, I don't agree with a lot of it. I really don't agree with a lot of the damage that's being caused. But my fear is that something really sinister is birthed because of this.
Sure.
This is exactly what fucking happened in Weimar, Germany.
Yeah.
You had the communists raging against the Germans over there during that time, and then you get Hitler, basically. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't want it to get to a point where people are pushing so far left that you actually create the right that you're claiming is coming for you, That's my fear.
We already had kids in cages. I mean, I feel like the right was go.
I don't mean that. I mean, I mean worse, dude.
Yeah.
Because there is always fucking worse.
Sure.
And the way things are going now, your people are saber rattling, and it's fucking scary, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna get moderates like me going, I don't know if I'm a fan of this. Like, it's scary, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened. This isn't the first time.
No.
It's happened and it won't outside be the of America.
Last. Yeah.
But it happened before.
Yeah, it won't be the last. It won't, it's we'll see what happens.
We just need a Judge Dredd, man.
Yeah.
We need him to come through and just, this is my city block.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, because I don't know. I don't know
either.
I don't think there's a perfect answer for everything. I think it's just one of those where we do need to realize that what we do has an impact on so many people, and just feel more of a response, as opposed to feeling a power hungry aspect of it, feeling a sense of responsibility.
I just want people to fucking come to the center again, man. Yeah. Going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Being dicks.
Seriously. Yeah. On either, it's enough is enough, dude. We need to start compromising again. Yeah. Because otherwise there's no fucking future.
Yeah. And I feel like people, because of social media, they're so conditioned to argue.
Yeah.
Where I see it all the time, where someone posts something and then somebody who agrees with them finds one little tiny straw man argument to argue about. And it's like, you guys agree. Why are one of you so hardwired to argue that you want to start an argument on something that you ultimately agree with?
They want that big dick energy, dude. That's what it is. I
guess. And they're just so used to going online. So many people are so upset that they then go online to see what they're upset about. And it's like, man, I'm pretty sure you're upset before you logged in and saw this thing that you're super pissed about. Like, oh, that was it. Oh, the thing you just learned about?
It's confirmation bias.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure your anger from that for 10 seconds isn't the same as what you're angry about for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're just angry. You just said about life. And I don't really fully know what that is. I don't know how to fix that. But there's plenty of people that are profiting off of reminding you, like, hell yeah, you should be angry. Yeah, here's some more shit to be angry about.
No, we talked about them a little bit earlier. You know what I mean? It's people on both aisles.
Yep, and it's the news.
Yeah, of course.
That tune in at 10 to see what you should be afraid of.
On that note, do you watch a lot of movies, TV? Like, are you? Yeah. I mean, you're in that industry, so I would assume that you're.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed a lot of bleed over into that? Because as a gamer, right? Like, I've seen it bleed over different kinds of opinions and stuff into the gaming space. I've seen it bleed over into music for sure, but music's always been, super political, which is awesome because that's part of why it's got that energy.
Sure.
But I feel like there might be certain mediums where, it gets weird.
What can you just talk? What pronouns you're using? A lot of pronouns. Well,
because I don't really know how to articulate what I'm trying to say in a.
But when you said it gets weird, what gets weird?
The politicization.
I know what you mean.
That word.
Yeah.
Of whatever media form of whatever form of entertainment you're trying to mess with, because I feel like entertainment in its purest sense shouldn't really have any sort of agenda other than this is fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the whole point is to escape from fucking reality, dude. So why do I want to be constantly bombarded by whatever agenda, and it doesn't matter who it is trying to shove into this, form of piece of entertainment that I'm trying to engage with, when all I want to do is escape from that exact same thing,
Yeah, I would say it's in media. So it's show business. So a lot of people claim Hollywood has this liberal agenda, but I'm here to tell the majority of people, I don't know who your audience their demographic is, but I'm here to tell you Hollywood, the studio's very conservative because of show business. So they're going to do what makes them money.
Reboots.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have people who, I have friends in Michigan, Hollywood ran out of ideas. What movies did you watch last year?
Yeah.
They would list off a bunch of sequels and franchises and all that stuff. And it's so you didn't see any independent movies. You vote with your dollars, man. Of course they're going to make these reboots and franchises, because if you're telling me that's what you go see, you can bitch all you want to, but your money's saying else.
Yeah, they'll go with what's safe.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
guarantees a return. Yeah.
They have to. But I think there's some, but I don't think Hollywood really, I think TV is a safer space to do that. Because with TV now, and I'm including platforms and Netflix, Hulu, things like that, because ratings have gone so shitty over the past 20 years, past 30 years. It happened mid-'80s when ratings started to decline because of Sinfin. But
because of what?
Okay, so back in the early days of TV, legally, if you had a network like CBS,
okay,
let's say CBS, if you had a network, but you also had CBS Studios. This is a bad example because their production entity didn't come around until later, but let's just roll with it.
Sure.
So let's just do NBC. So if NBC had a production company and they had NBC the network, you legally were not allowed to air NBC production stuff on NBC. It had to come from third parties. You could get it from ABC Studios, you could get it from Sony, you could do whatever. You could not air your own stuff because, I agree, it should have stayed this way. I know this is very confusing, but follow me down this rabbit hole. Because it's a kind of a antitrust collusion type of legal fear, where let's say you're going to favor your NBC show over Sony's because at the end of the day, you make money off of syndication, which is stuff in reruns, stuff on other networks, things like that. So it behooves you to renew your shit because you're going to make more money off of the back end. Whereas if you would renew a Sony thing, you only make money on the ad revenue for new episodes or when it's on your prime time.
So it's basically like when Google started promoting their shopping ads before retailers that were using their ad network. So
yeah,
because they started Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Or like when you have like internet companies, like providers, like Comcast or whatever,
pushing their own VoIP or their own whatever.
The fear is
versus...
if they to the whole what's the term? The thing where it makes it like regulated or not. Deregulation of internet. I cannot think of what it's called. I'm spacing.
Net neutrality?
Yes, thank you. The fear is they're going to throttle the service to make you spend more. It's the same thing. So and studios and production company, or the networks went in the mid 80s and said, hey, we promise if another show is doing well, of course we're going to renew it because we're going to get great stuff. And Washington's like, okay. So now all of a sudden they got rid of it, where now they could finance their own stuff. And so like you'll always hear like, oh, the ratings went down because of cable, because of streaming, because of blah, blah, blah. Sure. But the main reason why shit started going sideways is, okay, Fox. So Fox came around. I mean, and the whole like repeal of that law helped them become their own network, because now they could air The Simpsons, which is their own stuff. And it's cheaper for them to launch their own network because they know that they can provide shit for themselves. Well, so now let's say you have Fox. They have I'm trying to think of it. Prison Break. I'm just gonna make up stuff.
Okay.
Like, okay, so you have Prison Break, which gets like an 8 rating. Now you have House, and by the way, 20th Century Fox makes Prison Break, so they own it. So they own the show that's on their network. Meanwhile, House is an NBC Universal show that's on Fox. That gets a 10 rating or a 12 rating, whatever. It gets a higher rating than Prison Break.
Right.
However, due to union rules, if a show is older, then the licensing is more. So it costs more money to have House on Fox. Well, okay, so let's say, we've established Prison Break at an 8 rating, House at a 12 rating. So even though House gets a better rating, long run, the longer Prison Break goes on, you make more money, because if you sell it into syndication, reruns, things like that, you're going to make more money. Whereas with House, you're only going to make money on the ad revenue of when it's on your primetime TV.
Gotcha.
So for them, it's like, but if that show's more expensive, all that does is cut into our bottom end. So what we do instead is we cancel House because it's way more expensive for us to have on there, and we're only getting paid one way, while we renew Prison Break because we're getting paid long-term on that. So now you've sacrificed a show at a 12 rating for a show at an 8 rating. Well, it's 5 seasons in a Prison Break. Do you really think, once again, the show only ran for 4, I know this, with a limited series later. This is just for illustration purposes.
Okay.
So knowing it's a serialized show, how many more viewers do you think are going to come to Prison Break? They're not. If anything, it's when serialized shows
taper off eventually.
Yeah, they're going to taper off because it's a commitment where it's like, Jesus, like I don't have time. You're not going to get 4 more points of the rating. You're going to stick to the 8. Well, with House gone, that leaves a new hour window for someone to try out another show at another network. So you're going to lose that audience. So now when you had a 12, like an amount of people for a 12 rating, all that audience could fracture to other networks. So now you have this thing where as time goes on, those numbers keep going down and down and down. You're hoping for a big hit like an American Idol or whatever, but that's an anomaly versus kind of rolling the dice. So they're playing the long game, but by doing that, that actually lowers ratings because you're still committed to that time period. And it's not until like streaming and things like that where they can find an elsewhere, or DVRs definitely helped out with ratings for some shows because you don't have to watch at Mondays at 8. You can watch whenever the hell you want to because you have it recorded on a box, so I don't even know where I was going with it.
We were talking about politicization of media. But
sorry.
You were explaining what did you call it again? Synfin.
Syndication, financing syndication. So it's FinCyn or Synfin. It's one of those. But that's the term. That was the legal term where you could not air the stuff your sister production company made.
I mean, now that you've explained it, it kind of makes sense.
And it killed a lot of production companies that didn't have their own network that would always sell to like networks. So like it would kill like Sony doesn't have their own broadcast network. So that hurt all the shows that they had to sell to people. That Warner Brothers, all the shows they had to sell to people, like, and even the smaller ones definitely got hurt more than the big dogs. But like smaller ones died out because now if Fox can air all their stuff, and when you look at all these networks now, the vast majority of shows are theirs.
Yeah.
And so what does that do to like a Sony who has to sell in?
I mean, they're creating their own platforms now.
Yeah.
So
Sony's had Crackle for years, never knew what to do with it, but like they were one of the first like streamers, but yeah. But yeah, so now with TV you can be a little bit more political because now it's not so much about the quantity of audience, it's the specificity of who's our demographic,
right?
Specifically,
so I'm assuming this is so you could target advertisements.
Yeah, but target specific groups. I mean,
because you'll convert them better.
Sure.
I'm assuming that's the logic.
You're focused more on like how deeply engaged is this person versus let's just get 18 to 49.
Yeah.
You can be way more specific, but you can also be way more like politically demographic because the stakes aren't as high as they were before. Because of the broadcast, you're throwing out a wide net, wanting to get as many people. So let's not piss off one half. Like let's not piss off the red crowd or the blue crowd. So let's make it as cookie cutter, and a lot of like the major franchises do that too, but so it's way more conservative in that aspect of fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Whereas with TV, you can kind of be a little bit more specific, but like in Hollywood, I do think that there are some, but those aren't the big budget films. And I feel like sometimes when people want to make a political observation about big budget films, doesn't really land.
You might be stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, like I remember in Endgame where all the women superheroes, there's that scene where they all came together, and I had one friend who was like, "Ugh, I hate how they pushed feminism." A woman said this, by the way, to be clear. She's like, "Ugh, I hate how they pushed feminism." I'm like, that's A-Force. They're literally that was a nod to a comic line where it's the women of Avengers. They're not saying like girl power there. That's literally a nod to comic book fans.
Was your friend a comic book fan originally?
No.
Then there's your answer.
Yeah.
But
they were looking for that. Or the people like James Wood, like, oh my gosh, like they're pushing feminism by having Captain Marvel. It's like that's in 22 Marvel films, that's the first one with the female lead. Like the others have had all dudes. Like,
to be fair, they canceled Black Widow before Captain Marvel was aired.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit, in my opinion. Because why wouldn't you give Scarlett Jo a fucking lead role?
Right.
For that shit?
Her character's pretty awesome.
Objectively.
Yeah.
Like badass.
Yeah.
You want strong, empowered woman? Boom.
And the trailer for Black Widow, that movie looks awesome.
I'm kind of I haven't seen a movie in a long time. We'll come right back to this, but segue. I haven't seen a movie in the theaters in a long fucking time, dude.
See,
so I'm hoping
that's one of my favorite things to do. That's one things are safe. I'm looking so forward to. I have the AMC A list.
Okay.
I mean, I love the theater experience. Plus I also love the fact that because it's a monthly plan, if a movie sucks, I can walk out not feeling like I have to stick with this because I paid X amount for this one ticket. Instead, it's like, oh, cool, I could bounce. And I've done that before, and it's an amazing feeling.
I know I said I didn't want to segue, but I had a friend. I was just talking to my other buddy about this. We went to go see Cloverfield when it first came out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't know why I loved that movie. I know what it was. We were doing a video edit, right? And the cam was super fucking shaky. And my buddy's like, dude, this is fucking garbage. And I'm like, yeah, but it looks kind of like Cloverfield. I think that's dope, right? And he's like, oh, the movie was shit. And I looked at him like, that movie was awesome. What are you talking about? And then I remembered I had a buddy walk out halfway through that. It was the only time I've ever had anybody walk out of or observed anybody walk out of a theater. So it was kind of like, he just brought me back to that moment. It was hilarious. And he was cussing the whole fucking time. He's like, this movie's fucking garbage. Blah, 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 blah. He just launched himself out of the theater.
Wow.
It's fucking great, dude. It's fucking
I mean, I can see that movie you have to be patient with.
Yeah.
Because it's not until maybe halfway through the second act where things kind of purposely connect.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's fantastic.
dope, dude.
The third one was we don't speak about the third one, but I thought the first one was great. The second one was amazing.
I didn't see that.
10 Cloverfield Lane is fantastic.
Okay, I saw the commercials for that.
And it's a completely different, almost a different genre.
I don't want to spoil anything, but correct me if I'm wrong. They tie it in with there's a device that does some stuff, and that's how they tied it all the movies together, right? Like there was a device.
In the third one.
Yeah,
but I almost seeing the third one, the one that's on Netflix, I feel like it was written to be a different movie, like a completely independent, nothing to do with Cloverfield. And it felt like either the studio or whoever was like, let's just put Cloverfield on there and find a couple sentences to justify why it's in the universe. Because it didn't feel like it belonged. And they did that with Hellraisers too, where I'm like, we got a script for a really creepy, crappy torture porn horror movie. And let's find a way to put Pinhead in it. Fuck it. Like, that's how a lot of those sequels felt.
I was never in a horror.
Don't.
Just so you
know. Yeah, Hellraisers, just skip them.
Really?
They're
that
just
bad?
Awful. The first one's an interesting premise. I like the premise more than the movie.
Hellraiser's the guy with
Pinhead.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
I like the genre. Never interested me to begin with. Like Freddy Krueger and all that. I never.
No, awful.
Was it?
Yeah.
People rave about that movie. Silence on Elm.
Nightmare on Elm
Street. on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm. There's Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. Those are the slasher franchises.
I think was it Scary Movie was my favorite slasher movie.
Yeah, because they spoof it. Scream is mine, but that's like half spoof, half legit slasher movie. Because Scream is like commentary on slasher movies.
I vaguely remember watching Scream, and I think I could see that.
Because you even had Jamie Kennedy explaining the rules of whatever as people are dying from that.
Yeah. In the beginning scene too, where they yeah.
So, but yeah, so to your point, I think there's some, but I don't know. I don't feel in the major movies there's really that much commentary. I feel like
mostly vanilla.
Yeah, well, just trying to hit as many quadrants, as they say, like the different demographics as they can to make as much money as they can. And they tend to play it safe, but also you got to think about who buys more tickets, and it's people who don't have access to entertainment 24/7 like people on each coast do.
Yeah.
And you make the advances, you kind of bring people make them more enlightened by little in ways that's more bite-sized and edible than you can. Like Star Wars and Fast and the Furious are my two biggest examples of like you can push diversity in that because people are going to go see those franchises anyway, so you're not really running the risk of upsetting people, but so you can do that because the audience is going to come, so you can have them more diverse. But also it's funny when people complain about in The Last Jedi?
No,
The Last Jedi.
You're talking about the third one?
The in the most recent trilogy, the
Rise of Oh, the middle one was The Last Jedi. Yeah.
When they're complaining about the Asian character they're pushing diversity. I'm like, okay, Han Solo was with a Wookiee in all those movies, so diversity in aliens is cool with you, but skin color is where you draw the line.
I think a lot of those arguments were probably bullshit.
Yeah,
because I mean the communities that I'm a part of, I loved Star Wars. Preface: the communities that I was a part of didn't give a shit.
No.
That's not what we were upset about. We were upset over the fact that those scripts were fucking shit.
The Last Jedi was terrible.
Those scripts were
made me
garbage.
Mad. It made me super mad.
Objectively, you can't sit there and justify the plot holes that they brought up, the fucking inconsistencies,
and Poe, because of that movie, Poe should be in jail for life for war crimes, and for
Oh yeah, you mean in the universe?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, in The Last Jedi, the reason the majority of the rebellion dies because of Poe.
I disagree in a different sense because I feel like Admiral Holdo. Right? That whole fucking scene.
Yeah, that whole movie is a mess.
Why couldn't she just fucking tell him?
Yeah.
Hey, dude.
Yeah.
He's your right hand.
Yeah.
Right? Who else would you fucking tell? And if you were gonna delete yourself anyways, Why wouldn't you tell him?
Yeah.
Like, what was he gonna stop you? No, he'd be like,
oh shit, cool. So we are on the same page. I don't have to do a mutiny.
That's insane, dude. You can't if a captain on the high seas did that, you would have a mutiny.
Yeah.
This is not some like controversial topic.
Yeah.
You know, your crew needs to know what the fuck is going on, dude.
I loved in Rise of Skywalker, I loved the way J.J. Abrams fixed how messed up Luke was treated in Last Jedi.
I didn't see it. I intentionally didn't watch that movie, dude.
I love it. That's the most the final one I loved. But basically when Rey, when she was just like, she said, well, what about this? Like, she asked him, Luke, a question like, when you said this in the last movie, and Luke's like, I was wrong. I was like, that was JJ way of saying like, yeah, Ryan was wrong. Ryan, have him stick to Knives Out because that was awesome, but he needs to stay away from Star Wars.
What the fuck were they thinking even splitting up the directors the way they did? Like, why the fuck wouldn't you just have one guy do the trilogy?
That was the intention, but they didn't sign JJ to an exclusive so he could go and do other shit. But they should have. He should have done all three. Stick with them.
I don't care who it was, just one person to do the three, because that's how you get this disjointed vision, you know? Like, and I don't know for a fact, but I'm assuming that the screenwrites were different across each film as well, right?
Yeah. Well, Ryan, his voice was the loudest in the script for The Last Jedi. It was his movie.
Yeah.
You know, whereas JJ kind of brought his team back to course correct the best they could in the last one, which had some clunky parts, but it couldn't not. Like, they did the best that they could to right the ship, because I do not know where they could have taken The Last Jedi after. Ryan just, I know that wasn't his intention.
He shit the bed, dude.
But he shit the bed to the point where it's like, do you know Star Wars? Like, why have you watched any? Like, his bastardization of, and by the way, I love Ryan because Knives Out was amazing. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't.
It's on Amazon Prime now. Highly recommend it. I loved it.
Okay.
But stay away from Star Wars.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like, yeah, I just feel like his bastardization of Luke alone was just
it wasn't
insane.
A nice treatment of the character, dude.
No,
there was no respect for the
betrayed so many things of what Luke was about, you know? And man, but yeah, I love Star Wars too. And yeah, I still think probably Rogue One's probably my favorite.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I don't understand why it's contentious for people to like that movie.
I think it's and the fight on the beach, I'm like, this is some of the best visuals ever. They need more fights on beaches because it was gorgeous.
I feel like, and I don't know why people say that there was no chemistry between the actors, but I felt like there was no, like, I think this is what pissed people off. That because the male, the lead male and the lead female role didn't have like a sexual relationship together, I think people were turned off by that. And I'm sat there going, that's what made this amazing. Yeah. It was purely platonic, just like, dude, I respect you. I don't like this. I don't like that about you, but I respect, let's work together. We got a fucking mission. Let's handle it. And they did it. And it was fucking awesome. It was all the way through.
My favorite.
That's why I like Civil War. As long as we're on this subject, that's what I loved about Civil War, was how Cap and Black Widow were just like, there's nothing sexual there, but they, like, you could tell that they respect each other.
Yeah, they went through some shit together ever since Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And they were,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Winter Soldier is what I meant.
Oh,
That movie.
Yeah.
Not Civil War. My bad, dude.
Yeah, Winter Soldier is still my favorite.
It's fucking great.
Yeah, it's unbelievably good.
That scene in the elevator is fucking
awesome. I love that part. Oh really my God. Cool, so just everything about that. The choreography was tight. Like the fight scenes, it was just amazing.
This was a cool callback in Endgame too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. It was.
I don't want to spoil anything, but people have probably seen it.
You need
by
to see
now.
Endgame.
Like, yeah.
You need to see Endgame. That was my favorite movie of last year by far. Amazing.
I don't even think I saw anything else, man.
Yeah. You should see Jojo Rabbit. That's my second favorite movie. It's amazing.
Which one's that one?
That is the 10-year-old boy who's part of Hitler Youth. That Hitler was his imaginary friend.
Okay.
And Taika Waititi is the director, writer, and plays Hitler.
Really?
It's amazing.
Okay, I'll give it a watch.
Scarlett Johansson plays the kid's mom. It's funny. It's sad. It's deep. It's amazing. It's my second favorite movie of last year after Endgame.
I told you, dude. I've been completely just avoiding the theater. I don't know what it is, but
I mean, right now I know what it is.
Well, yeah, you don't have a choice now, dude. Like,
yeah,
but that's didn't AMC do? Was it Chapter 11? I think.
Was it? They
restructured.
Yeah, they've raised a ton of capital, but other ones have filed for sure. But yeah, I think Diego Luna did a great job in Rogue One. And one of the things I'm like, I don't know if this is intentional, but in my mind, I want to make it be intentional. But you know how George Lucas changed it where Han didn't shoot first?
Yeah.
I feel like the director, writer of this is like, you know what? That was a mistake because Han is still a good guy no matter what. So I'm going to create this character who's a bad guy and prove in the movie he's still a bad guy. We're going to show him as a bad guy, but prove that he's a hero.
Yeah.
Just like Han was. And you felt that because like he's a bad guy and you see this amazing evolution of his character. He's a
fucking spy, dude. You have to be amoral to be able to work that job.
But then his realization of like the bigger picture that he's a part of, things like that, and just ultimately doing. I
think it was and again, trying not to spoil this for people, but I think it was the scene on that one planet where that really hit him, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
It was like, whoa, wait, what? You know? Yeah.
It was a great movie, man. It blows my mind that people are like, no, that was shit. I'm like, okay, I guess.
And I love that. I love how these big blockbuster movies can still, the best ones and the most successful ones are ones that can tell a story that you don't have to just play to the lowest common denominator. And some of the stuff you see, some movies where they play to try to cater to way too many people, end up catering to nobody. You know, I think
Fast and Furious probably hit that mark, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, it's entertaining. Don't get me wrong, but like any premise of like a script is.
But I think why people love that. So I agree that they try and play to a lot of people, but I think they're not for me. But I think why they're so successful is they know what they are.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to be something they're not. I remember when Terminator Genesis came out and I saw that movie and they were trying to add, you could tell, for one, it was PG-13. So already it's like, oh, okay, they're trying to get more people to see it. But also there was a lot of humor in it that was like, why? That this is not a property that people are going to for the jokes. And it just diluted the property. So all of a sudden it's like, who is this movie for?
Yeah.
You don't.
It'd be like if Die Hard or Lethal Weapon turned into a period drama or something.
But even the fifth Die Hard was a PG-13. Where
that was a garbage movie.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas like every other line, all of a sudden, instead of yippee-ki-yay, his tagline was, I'm supposed to be on vacation.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who is this for? You know?
I don't know if and it's strange that you're bringing that up because it's making me think like there's a clear disconnect between somewhere in management and the creative department, and I don't know where it is or who's the one that's disconnected.
The accountants.
Oh.
They're saying, well, if you hit these 4 quadrants of a movie, you'll get all of this money. But then when you do that and you don't have someone like from Marvel as Kevin Feige, who's quality control, if you're doing all of this without having that quality control person, you miss the narrative focus.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, we have to do X because, even though if we didn't do that, you know, we could theoretically make more money, but yet we're then, we're casting out people who, or we're casting out, or we're losing some of our story, you know? So I think that's why Marvel's been so good at this is you have Kevin Feige, who's just like, we got to stick to the core artistic integrity of the story, and then the audience will come.
Dude, he's done such a fucking fantastic job, man.
Amazing. You see the difference between Marvel and DC and how it's been handled on the studio side, and it's night and day. And I'm not a DC hater. One of my favorites growing up was Batman. I want DC to thrive, and it physically hurts me how many missteps they've had because they don't have that person. They don't have the one person who understands the characters and what it's supposed to be to say, oh, faceless executive, that's a good idea for more money.
Yeah.
We're not doing that because that has nothing to do with this. Like, we're not doing your idea. Oh, that's a great idea, but not for this. And that's also actually going to hurt our property. You don't have somebody who's like super protective of the property.
I think there's a lot of big picture thinking that went on there too, where I'm speculating because I have no fucking way of knowing this, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that they may have even put out some movies fully knowing that they would perform. Let's not, poorly is a horrible word for that because none of Marvel's movies have underperform in comparison. But when tied in with the entire property, would help generate a shitload more income on that end. You know what I mean? Like, let's take Captain Marvel, for example, right? Like, I think it made less than Black Panther, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
Black Panther blew every expectation out of the water.
It was a fucking great movie, man. Yeah. Like, and I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
No.
You know? But tying both of those together with the rest of the properties, right? You're looking at a much bigger return on your investment versus if you tried to make Captain Marvel, that one film, be the best film of that. Does that kind of make sense what I'm trying to say? It's like you know that it might not do as well, but you want to include that as part of the story and as part of the project as a whole. And you do that because you know that the vision over here needs that to happen, whether it's to make the profit on that end or whether it's to have a conclusive end to the story.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what Feige nailed, not just the narrative from a storytelling perspective. I think he fucking nailed it on the business side of it too, with the decisions that were made.
Well, yeah,
you know?
I mean, you're exactly right. I think what he did is, it's sort of episodic in a way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what he also did, he knew also financially for it to work episodic, they do need to stand alone narratively.
Yes.
So like to your point, Captain Marvel is not going to make as much as Endgame.
Correct.
Nor do we expect it to.
No.
Like, yes, Spider-Man Far From Home is after Endgame. We don't think it's going to make as much as Endgame. We don't think it's going to make half as much as Endgame. But it needs to stand alone. But in order for people to want to stay engaged, that movie still has to be quality.
Right.
You know, I mean, we know we're going to, to your point, we're going to make more money off an Avengers than we are the individual ones.
But we're not going to sacrifice the script of that movie, just to turn a quick buck, right? We're going to still do as good a fucking job as we can to get it to something that fits with the rest of the big picture.
Yeah. And if we have little breadcrumbs in there for other movies, it needs to be organic.
Yes.
And it needs to not be jarring. I think they learned a lot. So I like Iron Man 2. However, a lot of people hate it because it had a lot of the extended universe shoehorned into it. And I think they learned from that. They're like, okay, if we have, the like coming up next to be continued type of stuff in there, it needs to not be like blatantly obvious what we're doing. It still needs to fit in. And I think that's why Civil War did so well with like Black Panther and Spider-Man, because it wasn't something that was jarring. It existed in that universe at that time.
Correct.
And when you see the other types of franchises that have tried that and failed, it always feels weird and shoved in and jarring because they're like, come and see our other movie. And Feige's like, yeah, but they need to still be in the movie that they're in. They want to leave the theater like, I can't wait to see these other properties. But during the movie, they need to be happy they're in the movie they're in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then save those I can't wait stuff for like the end credit scenes or things like that, where it's like to be continued. None of those types of like incomplete pieces. Every movie needs to feel complete.
It's a fucking movie, dude. Like,
yeah.
I don't care how many parts
it needs to not be an advertisement.
Yeah,
it needs to be a
thank
movie.
you. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I think DC was trying so hard to catch up, because Marvel's already like in phase 3 at the time, and DC's like, shit. So they tried to catch up and tried to put everything front heavy. I mean, Civil War, Captain America's Civil War was like, I don't know, 12, 13 movies in after we've lived with these characters for multiple movies. So they have a history that we've seen that we're then rewarded with because we know what Captain America's about. We know what Iron Man's about. As opposed to Batman versus Superman, where we're learning what they're about in their first movie. And it doesn't feel like we've earned it, that we've built to this, our two biggest guys fighting.
I don't know if that that's like the worst criticism we could throw at that movie.
Oh, trust me. When people ask me about that movie, I say it's one of the most miserable experiences of my life, and I've been divorced.
Why do you know that name?
Oh my gosh. Do we just become best friends? Is our mom Martha?
Basically.
Yeah, there's so many things wrong with that movie. Ugh. But yeah, so I mean but I feel like
they tried to jump before they learned how to
forward. Yeah. Whereas the first phase of Marvel wasn't even called Phase 1 until they announced Phase 2.
Yeah.
So if one of those little pieces didn't work and the grand scheme of things didn't work, Marvel could be like, those were just fun Easter eggs. We weren't really building. They had exit clause. Meanwhile, like Warner Brothers committed at the start to all this shit just did not work. And where are you going to go from there? You're going to be where they are now, where it's a half reboot, half whatever. You have a Suicide Squad that's sort of a sequel, but not really, but a sort of soft reboot. I don't want to talk
about that movie, dude.
But also it's going to have Margot Robbie in it because that's one of the only characters that did well. Oops, actually, Birds of Prey bombed. I just looked it up. It only made $84 million total in the box office.
I got to be honest, man. Like, I had a feeling.
Same.
I kind of knew.
Well, you see, I didn't want to like. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
The commercials made it look like a clusterfuck. And then I saw it, and I'm like, it looked like that in the trailer because it was. There's bits and pieces that had good stuff that they could have worked on, but it was all over the place, man.
It was the same with Suicide Squad, dude. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Like, what is this story about some fucking alien chick that came down to the planet and now she's doing this weird fucking dance? And
her dance made me want to buy cars. I don't know about you. Didn't she look like one of those things outside of a car dealership?
Yes, dude,
I'm just like, why do I want to buy a Honda right now? I'm in a movie theater.
And then it's like, okay, the one Vato Loco that you got in your group is apparently another god that you didn't fucking know. But like, what the fuck is happening in this script? Like,
and I giggled in the theater when he's a family man, but yet he has his face tattooed. And I'm like, this is not a serious moment.
But the part that aggravated me was I'm like, dude, you had so much potential here. Like, what are you trying to do? Like,
and great talent. The casting was great.
It was fantastic. You don't need some extraterrestrial threat. They're the Suicide Squad. Find some fucking shady terrorist organization that's on Earth that are human beings. Have them go fuck with them.
Yeah.
Why bring this ridiculous narrative into
And they fought a bunch of frickin' Power Ranger putties.
Why?
Caviar putties, whatever the hell that was. But I mean, David Ayer, the writer-director, was set up to fail. They announced that movie before they even hired him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they announced the movie and the premiere date before they even hired him. He had 9 weeks to write the entire script from starting to write it to the shooting script.
Oh, that's shit.
The first time I was hired to write a film, I was given 7 weeks, which was fast for the first draft. And then I was given 2 weeks for the first page rewrite. It wasn't even the final script. Like, for Warner Brothers to expect from start to shoot day 9 weeks, that sucks. And watching the movie, there were certain things that I could tell were writer placeholders. So, for example, if you're writing a script and you're kind of in a hurry because you're hired by people who aren't scriptwriters who don't realize that it takes a lot of time of staring at the wall before you can write some good shit. There's placeholders where like, I don't know what I'm going to call this person or what this is going to be, but let me write it on the page so I can keep going. Okay. So I'm not stuck in a spot, so I can keep going.
Filler.
But something that just, I know this is something that will be addressed later, but I just need to put it down instead of just being stuck here and I could just move on. And one of them was, did you see the name on the side of the vat of chemicals that the Joker fell into? Did you see the title of what that vat of chemicals was titled?
No.
Chemicals.
Oh.
So I'm like, as a placeholder, where it's like, well, I don't know what chemicals are going to be called, so I'm just going to put it's chemicals for the time being. And they just kept it in there because who gives a shit? So like certain things where I'm like, because he just didn't have the time. You know what I mean? And then they sent the footage to Trailer Park, the post-production house that does trailers for movies. And Trailer Park, a lot of people don't realize those are a lot of times third-party trailer post-production houses.
I had a buddy who worked for a Trailer Park.
Yeah, who they don't really necessarily know what the movie tone is or whatever. They just get raw footage. Trailer Park made that comedic trailer that did really well. The movie wasn't supposed to be comedic, so then they had to do these reshoots and add comedy, plus Deadpool did well, so the Warner Brothers executives are more funny. Like, shit, well, that's not our movie. So that's why the humor felt really jarring, is because those are reshoots with a tone that wasn't supposed to be the movie in the first place. So he was really set up to fail. And the only reason he did it was because Warner Brothers promised if he did this movie, they would do this one movie he wanted to do.
Okay.
So that's why he chose
some tit for tat there.
I mean, that's what Nolan did with the Batman movies. Is he wanted to do
those were fucking dope, man.
The first two were solid. The third's awful. Third is terrible.
What do you mean?
Oh my gosh, The Dark Knight Rises is garbage.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Come on.
It was so bad.
You don't like Bane?
It was so bad.
Why not?
Well, I loved Sean Connery and Dragonheart. I'm glad they could use the audio from Dragonheart in that movie.
My favorite part of Bane, I think, was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, because he was being set up, as far as I could tell,
to be Robin, because his middle name's Robin.
Why the fuck wouldn't you just keep rolling with that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, Nolan's out, Bale is out.
Yeah,
this guy.
Nolan didn't want to. Yeah, they didn't want to do it, and I think they were
Nolan at that point. Just move on to it. Yeah. Now you have this guy. You could do a different thing with him if you wanted to continue Batman, or you could have even done something weird where it was like, all right, let's not cast him as Robin. Let's cast him as I forget the name of the Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond.
Yeah,
that would have been fucking dope.
Yeah,
suddenly everything's futuristic, and that gives you a reason now to bring Superman into that kind of post-apocalyptic thing that they did. Like, you could have made this work. You know what I mean? And progress your plot line. I don't know how you don't see that, but then again, I
think Warner Brothers just took the wrong lessons from their previous Batman movies when they switched from Burton to Schumacher. I feel sometimes studios, because once again, a lot of times they're run by non-creatives, sometimes they get the wrong lessons from things. And I think they maybe thought, well, we don't want to switch directors or don't want to switch Batmans because look what happened with that. It's like, but have you seen the difference between Batman and Robin and Batman Forever?
Yeah.
Like, way too many things were different. The fact that it was a different director and different Batman, the different Batman, that wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
That was not the problem. But I think they just thought, well, we'd want someone like Nolan because that worked. But yet, if it's another director, they might not want to live in the shadow of Nolan, do their own thing. But like, where's the balance? So I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. I had major narrative issues with Batman, Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. I just like,
it was a little like all over the place. Like, I could totally agree with that.
Yeah. So like the underground jail,
nonsense,
where they just fixed his back by kneeling on it. But also, I love that they said no one's escaped from this jail except for two people: a dude with a broken back and a tween girl. I'm sorry, have any of the other prisoners tried to get out of there? I'm pretty sure if those two could get out, just reach for the stars, man. I'm pretty sure.
You gotta take the rope off.
Yeah.
Come on. That was it. That was the magic to it. You had to accept the risk of death.
Yeah. I do have to say, I did think Anne Hathaway did a good job because she was given nothing.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't much to the character, but I feel like there was even less on the page. She did a lot with it, but was given nothing.
She's a fantastic actress.
She's amazing.
Like,
very underrated.
Please don't laugh, but I kind of like The Princess Diaries, man. I thought those were fucking great movies. And this is like towards when she was a little bit younger and just starting her career out.
That was what launched her to where she got.
She's fantastic.
Yeah,
dude.
very underrated.
Devil Wears Prada, she fucking nailed it.
Love
in
that movie. Love that movie. Fantastic.
So, I mean, it is what it is, dude. You can only do so much, but talent is talent. So if you can rise and overcome, then it'll fucking show on the screen, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you do see there's a different mentality where some actors are like, I mean, fine, I'll do the character, but I'll do what you do,
Affleck.
and that's it.
Who's Affleck?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that was. He wasn't invested in that shit. He didn't care.
Yes, I agree. I will just say, I agree. He wasn't very inspired in that role, but I will give him a little bit of, I will take a little of the responsibility away from him only because, and this is I did not like. So the source material for his Batman is The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
Which is Frank Miller's old man Batman, who's like a homicidal, terrible.
He rolls around with a shotgun, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe that I hate The Dark Knight Returns, and I don't think that Bruce would turn into that. I think Bruce would turn into the Bruce from Batman Beyond, where he has to adjust his suit, but I don't believe he would give up everything he's about because he's old and bitter. So that is the source material for that I don't agree with, but that also isn't a very interesting Bruce. So you can have Ben Affleck that just does not know how to emote. He knows how to direct people to emote. He doesn't emote, So it's like he kind of was given the worst iteration of Batman, worst interpretation. So that movie was terrible for so many different reasons. But like in that aspect, it's like he was given shitty source material. So at least I give him a little bit of leniency, I should say. I'm not going to excuse him, but some leniency because
all right, fair enough, man. Fair enough.
That Batman is an awful interpretation, whereas it would be like a Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Because that Bruce is exactly how I would imagine him to be, where he's isolated. He really only has his awesome dog, but like he's pretty old, so he has to have a genetically altered, or not genetically, but like, electronically altered suit to do the shit because there's still crime.
I mean, I just love how they progress we're jumping now, but like I love how they managed to progress the story in such a way where the future Gotham didn't even seem that jarring. It felt very natural, and you were like, this works.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it made sense too that he would want it, because that's one of my favorite scenes is where the first fucking episode where Terry drops into the Batcave and he's looking at all of the suits of Batgirl, Robin, and you're like, oh, there's gonna be something going on there, and sure as shit, like, he ends up being mentored by Batman because he's like, this is my Robin, you know what I mean? But not really, this is gonna have to be me. Like, it was just awesome for all of those reasons and more, man.
And it made sense why Terry would want to take it up in the first place. And
I think that first episode set all of that up just really concisely. It was just boom, boom, boom.
And I love how the Joker inspired the gang, the Jokers.
Yes.
Because his whole chaos would inspire people and things like that. So that I feel is way more organic, like of an old Bruce and things like that.
Yeah.
But Ben Affleck didn't care. I mean, it's just, and Warner Brothers messed up. They wanted him to be their Robert Downey Jr. of the universe. But the problem with that is Ben doesn't need it. Like Ben has his directing career. He's more of an auteur now, things like that. Meanwhile, Robert Downey Jr., he was Tony Stark. He was Hollywood.
In his real life.
He was blacklisted in Hollywood because he could not clean his act up. This movie, he even talks about recently, saved his life because he was asking for that. It wasn't even the second chance. It was like a fifth chance. He needed this to succeed. He needed to redeem himself. He knew he had changed. But it's like, how many times are people in Hollywood going to get burned before they say, screw you, dude?
Yeah.
Like, they had to fight for him. So he needed this franchise. So the fact that he's been able to rise up and, redeem himself, he's going to have this loyalty to the property and the people that allowed him to do that. Versus Ben, who doesn't need it. I mean, he wanted to walk away years before he actually was contractually able to walk away. Because DC tells you what movie, or Warner Brothers told him what movies he could do, couldn't do, how he needed to do his hair. He couldn't gain weight, couldn't lose weight, things like that. When Ben's established doing what he loves to do and can choose that stuff, he doesn't freaking need that. That's just a nuisance to him. So
no, it makes perfect sense, dude. Why would you take on that kind of bullshit?
Yeah. So Warner Brothers should have had someone who maybe wasn't in such an established position for them to stick around.
Fresh blood.
Yeah.
I think that would have probably worked out better, man.
Yeah.
Well,
man, we have talked about everything today.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if we keep going, like, I have no intention to shift off of comic books, TVs, and movies, because I feel like we can go down this rabbit hole forever. But we need to wrap it up.
Yep.
All right, Noah, it's a pleasure to have you on.
This is amazing.
Your show. Say it one more time for the audience.
The Coffee Time podcast with Noah Kinsey.
It will be coming out soon. We don't have a date yet.
Not yet.
We're working on getting it done ASAP. What can people expect from the show? Just to recap.
More free-form conversation. Can run the gamut of political, comic books, whatever, but it's a healthy, open dialogue between 2 or 3 people. Sometimes I'm considering having a panel of people on to talk about some specific topics, but the majority of the shows are just conversations. You're going to be hearing me talk with people in the public space as just people.
Right on, dude. Social media, where can people find you?
Pretty much everything is at the Noah Kinsey.
At the Noah Kinsey. And if there's anything else, we'll make sure we throw it into the description, and we'll make sure that people know where to go to find the show and all that.
Perfect.
All right, brother. I can't wait to get this started.
Yeah, man. I'm excited.
Cool. Thanks for being on.
This is fun.
Absolutely. We should do it again.
Let's do it.